Hi, I will not have time to do the usual videos tomorrow. I've already done the Tuesday and Wednesday Legend of Sleepy Hollow videos, but I, of course, had to wait until I had seen the subject matter to do the Are You Afraid of the Dark and October movie viewing videos, and now I have, so this is probably the closest I will get to doing a Monsters at Midnight this year. Um, because of the monster movies that we watched. Now, of course, on Thursday we watched Dune, and my thoughts on that are one day I'll learn how to. It's easy to do. Put the link to my Dune review up there. So nothing from Thursday. Friday was our usual Disney day, and I had no ideas, so I asked for a list from the malevolent supernatural force I live with, and selected two movies, one that I've only seen once and one that I haven't seen. The first that I've only seen once, Hocus Pocus, and then the other one, something along the lines of Mom Has a Date with a Vampire, something like that, starring Caroline Rhea. I honestly slept for part of that one, but that was because it was the last thing we watched and I was tired. It seemed fun, and she's always fun. Um, she's like a variation on Rosie O'Donnell. Um, but it was fun. And Hocus Pocus, I saw for the first time a couple of years ago, after years of knowing uh, it's a classic, a cult classic. People love it, and before that, years of not even knowing it existed. Um, so I was very late to the game with Hocus Pocus, and I really enjoyed it. I remember really enjoying it the first time, and so this time it was kind of it was I've seen it, I know what's going to happen, so I can really look at the small things, and I won't get into the nitty gritty of what those small things are here and now, but there were a lot of just uh, so many, not memes because they were dialogue that you actually had to be able to hear, like my favorite one that I actually did find a clip on YouTube, just 15 seconds of uh, they're at the school chasing the kids around the school, and the kids have turned on the French lesson tape, like uh, take me to the library, something something biblioteca, and then they shove the witches in the kiln, and when the witches emerge from the kiln, Bette Midler walks out going, "I want my book." No, going, "Hello, I want my book. Bonjour. Uh, je veux me livre," something like that. And just her delivery was so funny. And that is part of the reason we watched Beetlejuice yesterday. Was that movie because I cannot I cannot really think of any performances, and there probably are plenty, um, but performances like the witches in Hocus Pocus and Beetlejuice, they just seem to go together. They're the same kind of comedic performance, and again, there are probably plenty out there, but those two just seem to rise above into their own category. Um, all three witches, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and the third one, who's, let me just see about Hocus Pocus cast, um, Kathy Najimy. And of course, there's a very young Thora Birch in there. I think that the 90s, I'm no expert, but I think that the 90s was a golden age of child actors. Thora Birch, Michelle Trachtenberg, Mara Wilson, Kirsten Dunst was a child actor in the 90s. I love her in Jumanji and Small Soldiers, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Vampire Lestat, but I know that's a big deal for her. And so yeah, so it was a fun Disney Saturday and or Disney Friday, and the vampire dating one was fun. So Saturday, before it was actually mostly DVDs on Saturday, but before we got to the DVDs, we spent a couple hours cooking, and because that's what we do, and on Tubi, which I'm just beginning to explore and appreciate, we watched The Ninth Gate, which is a Johnny Depp Frank Langella movie about Johnny Depp plays kind of Mark Maronish character who is like not like a comedian who does a podcast, but just he looked like a young, like it looked like Johnny Depp playing Mark Maron, and he's a rare books dealer. And I guess rare book dealers are slimy, uh, and uncouth. I don't know. That seems to be what the movie was saying. And he's comparing these three kind of satanic texts that are supposed to be the only three of their kind in existence, or maybe only one of them's authentic. It's a movie that we'd seen before. It didn't leave much of an impression, but this was kind of like the going back to it, giving it another chance, and I'll just say I don't think we'll be going back to this one too many more times. It's probably more interesting if you are deeply into um, the occult. So, The Ninth Gate. Frank Langella, of course, is another Dracula, like Christopher Lee, like Bela Lugosi, and his Dracula I think I've seen, but it's another one of those where I saw it once, but I have to really like I've seen Bela Lugosi a ton, and I've seen I think 3 or 4 different Christopher Lee Dracula movies, so gotta get more Frank Langella. Although I think his Dracula is the l- lowest quality as far as material. I don't know. Certainly, all the performances are great, but the material varies. Although none of it approaches the book. So after that, our first of the DVDs where we watched the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera, which I remembered really liking. It's mostly I think that there's too much opera, and I say that as the biggest fan in the world of the musical. There's like extended periods of the opera performance, and I guess some of the times uh, we're it's extended periods of the performance because we're concentrating on what's happening backstage. The Phantom is doing something. There's the chandelier drop and all that. Um, but it felt like they could have given time to other things. But then I don't want to make the movie into the musical. Um, but it's a bizarre movie. It sticks out like a sore thumb among Phantom of the Opera adaptations and among the Universal classic monster movies that it's part of the set of because it's for the latter it's because it's in color and it's extremely goofy um, compared to the Bela Lugosi Dracula. Um, and among Phantom of the Opera things because they changed Christine's surname, uh, family name. They add a baritone character, um, and she's just a generally happier person. Like it just it seems it's a little too upbeat a movie, but Claude Rains is my favorite screen Phantom, second favorite Phantom overall. My favorite Phantom, of course, is Michael Crawford. I'll talk about him in a second. But on screen, Claude Rains, uh, and only partly, I don't think that we necessarily need to get his backstory like we do at the beginning of this movie. The character is a um, violinist who's can't play quite as well, and so he loses his job, and he's been paying for Christine to get voice lessons from the top voice instructor, and he's just at the end of his rope, and then he gets acid splashed in his face, and so that's the backstory of this Phantom. Generally, it's the Phantom from the book, the Phantom from most adaptations was just born deformed and had to make his way in a cruel world. Uh, but the rest of the movie, the rest of Claude Rains as the Phantom, very little. And again, I'm the one who loves the one where he's singing for 40 minutes, uh, but very little dialogue from his Phantom. He's mostly just a presence. He appears, he disappears, he says a few threatening things, not singing an entire note. Um, he sends notes in this movie version, but it's not in his voice. Uh, and and mostly he's just going around behind, he's being chased, his cape is swishing, it's swashbuckling a little bit. But then at the end, when he takes Christine under false pretenses down into the lake below the theater, he's got this whole monologue about I've always looked after you, and I will look after you now, and you will sing for me. And it's just it's creepy and the set is beautiful, but it's creepy the way he does it. And because we know more than Christine knows about how in obsessed with her this guy was even before he was the Phantom, uh, and possessive of his music, and at the end of his rope, it makes it all the more creepy, but also a little sad. The Phantom is, of course, very sad. He's a tragic villain, but it's even more with this version. I don't know how to do it justice. He seems more human than he usually does because again we've seen him as a human at the end of his rope. So that's the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera. Then we watched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Probably my second least favorite of the 8 Harry Potter movies, and fourth least favorite of the 10 Wizarding World movies, of course, because it's my favorite of the books. And we traditionally watch a Harry Potter around Halloween time because it's about witches and wizards. And this one in particular, I think last year we watched Goblet of Fire, which was my pick. It has the scenes in the cemetery. It has characters in disguise. The Yule Ball is it's a Christmas party more than a Halloween party, but still. And then Harry Potter in general has a kind of a Halloween flavor. But this one, even though I don't love it among the movies, and I'll get to why, but it's got that huge pumpkin patch. It has the Dementors, which are like Halloween decorations, and also really creepy. It has the boggart. It has a werewolf, and uh, other elements. A haunted house, a supposedly haunted house. Now, the reason I don't love it among the Harry Potters is that the reason I love the book is the 40-page, this is the story of Harry Potter's dad and his friends when they were at Hogwarts. This is why all of this has happened. And they just completely leave that out of the movie, and it's for time reasons. But what ends up happening is, one, this wonderful part for the book isn't depicted on screen, and we don't really understand what any of these people's relationships are, the adult characters, the new adult characters. But also, um, that chunk breaks up the real time action of the plot of the novel, and then the repeated that action repeats when Harry and Hermione go back in time and they see it all again, and they do things a little. They do things from their perspective. In the movie, without that chunk in between, it's just the same sequence of scenes twice, shot from different camera angles, with a little bit more commentary. But it's not as it just it hurts my enjoyment of the movie because I know what's missing, and it's uninteresting to see essentially the same thing twice. Uh, so, but I also love what I do get from the book that's in that movie, and all the other movies are so great. All the movies, all 8 movies, are really good to great, and so that this one is my 7th favorite out of the 8 is really not at all taking away from it, detracting from it. And then Beetlejuice was the last movie that we watched yesterday before watching the Werewolves episode of Monstrum. And Beetlejuice is just a wonderful, tight little movie. And again, part of what inspired us watching it was the performances from Hocus Pocus reminded me of Michael Keaton's performance as Beetlejuice. Also, the sandworms from 2 Dune movies reminded me of the sandworms in this. Also, of course, the national treasure that is Gina Davis is in this movie. I felt a little guilty watching it after what happened with Alec Baldwin that you can look up this past week, but I do, as a general rule, not allow current events to affect my enjoyment of pieces of art that are connected but also separate in their own things. So I can, but it did strike me as I had already decided we're going to watch this movie, and then that thing happened, and I'll get it wrong if I try to describe what it is, so I don't want to, but it's not hard to find out. Um, and then just one more thing about Beetlejuice is that Michael Keaton's performance gets the lion's share of the praise. Gina Davis is great. Alec Baldwin is good, but uh, without Winona Ryder's awe at the ghosts and curiosity and just acceptance, but also acceptance because she's so amazed by the life after death thing. That is a beautiful creation, and and I know that there's a Beetlejuice 2 in the works. I guess it's been on and off for years. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what it would be. The obvious thing would seem to be that it involves Lydia now is grown and she's got a child, and the child somehow gets involved with Beetlejuice. It could happen, but I don't see the point. And if it's not going to be more interesting than that, it probably, I don't know. But maybe that would be great. Um, so then, bringing us to today, we watched this movie called Mary. Gary Oldman buys a boat. It's haunted. Emily Mortimer is his wife. She's not happy about it, and things go wrong on the boat. It was the While We're Cooking movie, like Ninth Gate was yesterday. Uh, and then what did we came in here? Oh, we watched a bootleg of Dance of the Vampires, which I may have previously mentioned I would love to see revived on Broadway, starring James Marsters, aka Spike from Buffy, and as Professor Abrontius, I'm going to say Whoopi Goldberg. Um, but the and Michael Crawford, it's fun. It's like a Halloween party, and watching it, I have two bootleg cast recordings. Essentially, they're soundboard recordings. But and I've been listening to those for years, but you can't see it when you're listening to it, and I have only the vaguest memories of when I did see it, and YouTube is always kind of fuzzy. This was pretty clear, but in watching it, you get it's called Dance of the Vampires. You can't see the dancing if you're listening to it. You can see the dancing in the bootleg on YouTube, and the dancing is great. And it's just a reminder that even whatever you think of the show, and a lot of people think a lot less of the show than I do, um, those people on the stage were working their hearts out. Um, and also, Michael Crawford, when I'm listening, is what I'm paying most attention to. He's the one who I imitated the most when I would sing along with it. But Mandy Gonzalez, she's got a huge voice on the recording, but watching her, and unfortunately, the nature of this kind of story, a parody of the classic Dracula story, uh, focuses on, because everyone always forgets that Mina is a character with agency who does have heroic moments in the book. When they do parodies of it, the the young girl is always uh, depicted as purely the victim, kind of a waif, um, and that is what the caricature is of the character, but that is the character of Sarah in Dance with Vampires. But Mandy Gonzalez, buried in that period garb, and I think it was a wig. Her face, a lot, like being able to see her face in addition to hearing her, is a wonderful addition because she has such an expressive eyes and expressive mouth, and she was probably a very goofy kid. She looks like she's taking the role. Like Max von Essen said in an interview around the time, he said, "You're taking yourself seriously in the role, but you're not taking it too seriously." And it seems to be what she's doing. She's playing exactly what she's supposed to be playing. She's playing exactly what the musical is, um, and it's just so hilarious to see. In addition to like hearing it, it's a big, powerful voice. Seeing it, she's I'm having trouble describing it. She's just wide-eyed, and it's kind of like Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas. The kind of huge eyes uh, and very expressive mouth. I've said that now twice, but like picture Sally and her reactions to things, and that's kind of like Sarah is being whisked around, and various guys are trying to sweep her off her feet, and she's uh, allowing it to happen to an extent, but with an air of, this is interesting. This is like she's got that kind of creepy doll thing going on. I think is the best poor way that I have to describe it. Look up the bootleg of Dance of the Vampires, and we finished up. Did we finish up after Dance of the Vampires? We put on the new Netflix movie Night Books. Kristen Ritter plays a witch. There's two kids. She's got to be told a story every night. Um, I want to see this one again, get a better sense of it, because it was a movie that seemed to be worth seeing again, but it's a kind of flashy, energetic children's movie that I didn't really, that I couldn't necessarily completely keep up with the first time through. I was also a little bit distracted when we were watching it. But Kristen Ritter, Jessica Jones, uh, makes a pretty fun witch character, and it had beautiful sets and props and things, including a enviable library. At least what I once would have thought of was an enviable library. Now I'm more into smaller, more interesting libraries rather than big, all-encompassing libraries. And then we watched Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes, which I will talk about in the next video. And after that, we watched at least one more we watched Treehouse of Horrors 32, the Simpsons Halloween episode. It had some fun moments. Let's see if I can name any of them. A lot of making fun of Disney, which now owns The Simpsons. It was a little bit, The Simpsons doth protest too much. And yeah, nothing particularly memorable. I enjoyed it at the time, but the only thing I can think of are the trees coming to life and taking revenge on Springfield. So yeah, that's that. So this has been the longest one of these, and I'm going to stop it now, and then I'm going to talk about the Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes, and then it will be midnight, and I will go to bed. But when you're watching this, it'll be in the middle of the day. I'm just kidding. No one's going to watch this. Happy Halloween.